Hello, friends, and welcome to the Friday Conversation, a very impromptu, last minute, why not type of Friday conversation. So I'm here with Jared, and we'll have some other people jump in and out as they are able to. So have some friends join us. Jared, how's it going?
It's going great, Steve. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. We planned on discussing, we're having the Speculative Speculations podcast tonight, and some people couldn't make it. So we just thought we're here, might as well just like hang
Yeah,
out.
talk some books and comics and whatever else comes up.
Yeah. So I guess you were just telling me before we started recording what you're drinking. So what is it that you're drinking?
Yes, this is a Belgian wheat ale called Delirium Tremens. Um, it could be a triggering name for some people who drink too much, but it's a very smooth, very tasty ale.
I'm having a Mass Ascension. It's a Indian Pale Ale. So it's a local brewery. I believe it's Ex Novo. So it's called Mass Ascension because we have the balloon fiesta here every October, and I believe they call it a Mass Ascension when all the balloons lift off, and
Oh,
it's an event. So I think that's what's referencing. So yeah, it's good stuff.
cool. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
Friday's beer night.
Yes.
Saturday we'll get to the wine.
Yes. We usually have beers over speculative speculations and speculate about stuff.
Yes,
Yes,
it helps.
it does. so, I had just finished watching, and I posted this on the forum just a few minutes ago. But I just finished watching a video, and I forget the name. I'll link it down below, or if you're on the forum, there's a thread going whenever you listen to this. But it was from a YouTuber who does, I believe they mostly discuss philosophy, journaling, things like that. But they made a video about how you never really own ebooks on Amazon because you're leasing the license to read it, and they can always take it away. They can change it if there's a new cover, if there's edits, if they remove disturbing content, or they ever want to, for whatever reason, they can always go in and remove it or change it however they see fit because you don't own it, they do. So does that bother you?
Yeah, in a way, I guess. These, I mean, I'm older. Um, Digital content was something that did not exist in my for half my life, and so I was always a little wary of it, to begin with, and then, but you change with the times, and of course I have a Kindle now, and I had one a long time, like when it first came out, one of the black and white ones back in 2008 or whatever, nine, and it was cool. It was convenient. I kind of got sick of it. I kind of missed having a book in my hand back then, and now I use it for just certain things. But I'm not big on digital. Um, I definitely would never do digital only.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with music too. I still like ordering CDs, um, so that's also a concern as well. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. I The whole digital thing, the video was by Jared Henderson on YouTube, and the name of the video is called Kindle has a big problem, so I'm leaving it behind. And he's making an effort to eliminate ebooks from Amazon and pretty much Amazon anything because of their practices, which I understand. I guess the problem is that there's just some from what I've looked into. There's just some books you can only get on Amazon.
Mhm.
If it's an Amazon exclusive, you can only get it there. So if you decide to buy the ebook for convenience, or especially for the bigger fantasy books, that especially the ones that we're reading, like one that you'll recognize is Trader's Knot, which is a big weapon of a book,
Mhm.
and it's nice just to be able to take the Kindle with you and not have to haul the book around. And plus, I'm weird about damaging my books when I carry them in a backpack or whatever. I'm always very
Uh,
wary of denting them up or damaging them or bending the cover or whatever. So it's one of those things where it's convenient, but it is weird to pay, $10 for an ebook and it can disappear tomorrow.
yeah. And what was his main fear of that happening? Because like it hasn't happened to me. I still have everything I've ever put on my Kindles. Um,
Yeah.
so what was the impetus for saying that this could happen anytime?
So the example that he uses in the video is that he owned a copy of 1984, which is one of your favorite books. He owned
So
a
good. I hate
yeah. He owned 1984, and I guess the the publisher who was publishing the ebook at the time didn't have the license for 1984 at the time that it was selling it on Amazon. So the whoever owned the rights came back and said, "No, you can't do this. You can't sell this book because you don't own the rights to sell it." So Amazon went through and removed however many copies of the book it sold. Whoever bought that version of the book, it was removed from their Kindle because Amazon, that was their resolution for it, because the publisher said, "You don't have a license to sell this book." So Amazon said, "Okay, we'll remove it from everyone's Kindle that bought it." And they did that.
Huh. Wow. It did were they refunded?
No, because
Oh,
they don't own the books. So there's no refund because it's in the terms and conditions that, and he lists all this in the video, but there's
yeah.
a line in the terms and conditions that you don't own the book, you license it. So you're leasing the right to read it. So you
Huh.
don't own it. It can disappear. It can be edited at any time. So another example is he was going to go back and read Wheel of Time for some reason, and uh, and the cover had changed to a different cover, the newest cover that was advertising the Wheel of Time TV show made by Amazon, and
Sure.
it wasn't the classic quote unquote cover that was the cover when he bought it. So that was another example of I didn't I will like the other cover. I don't want this cover. But they changed it because they can, because it's not yours. They can do whatever
Yeah.
they want. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's just I feel like it, I feel like there's a movement. I feel like people are starting, especially now with streaming, streaming for a time there was, it's convenient and you had limited options.
Sure.
But now there's so many different platforms that before streaming was a cheaper alternative to satellite and cable. And now it's, if you don't have six different streaming services, you aren't going to have the same selection as you would with something like a satellite, because there's different series on different platforms. So if you want to watch The Office, I think it's only on one of the, I don't know the platform, but it's not on Netflix anymore. It was removed and it's on Peacock or something now. But so now it seems like there's a movement slowly for people to buy physical again. And there's people who are ditching their smartphones for iPods and ditching their streaming services to buy a CD every month or a DVD every month, which would be the same price as a streaming service. So they're just spending that money to buy the movie they want to watch or they know they enjoy, and they'll always have it. It'll never disappear because it's theirs. So, but I know it's a small movement, but I do feel like things are moving that direction. At least I hope they are.
Yeah. That's cool. It's disappointing that you have to worry about digital content that you paid money for.
Mhm.
Um, that maybe that's something that could be brought up with your local congressman and see if they can do something about it. Because I have space concerns,
Mhm.
so switching to everything physical would be inconvenient for just where to put it all. And so some of the digital stuff is a space convenience.
Yeah.
So that's one way to look at it. I would recommend to people who uh, are concerned about digital to go ahead and use your local library resources
Hmm.
if you can. I use it all the time. All these books that Vasha forces me to read, I go to the library and get them, and
Yeah.
it's great. And I even get movies at the library too.
Hmm.
They have they have actual DVDs at the library, and
Hmm.
so I would definitely urge people to look into that if you're in an area that has a local library, and make full use of it. Use
Hmm.
that resource.
The library is an underused resource. I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure why. I think it's mostly because people don't know. They don't know about it, because if they knew about it, maybe they would use it more. But you can borrow digital books. You can get on a waiting list if
Yep.
it's a popular book. You can get on a waiting list. Like I said, there's movies at the library you can borrow. Another alternative that I did recently is I set up I forget the name of it, not Plex. It's the a Jellyfin server where I ripped my CDs that I own, paid for, and I ripped my DVDs that I own and pay for digital use. So I can stream it, quote unquote, stream it anywhere in any other computer or smart device that I can install Jellyfin on. I can watch those videos or listen to music
Yeah.
anywhere here. So it's nice to be able to just use that as a way to for convenience.
Yeah, you'll have to give me a link to that because that
Mhm.
sounds interesting. Because I have I rip my CDs too, but they're all on like thumb drives. So
Yeah.
I got to having a platform like that where I'm still gonna own it. It would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a free program too.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I set that up. I think I'll tag you in the forum thread that I made. But yeah, um, that's another alternative. So for people who are like, I don't want to have to go and take the DV out of the case and put it in, and it seems like we become so spoiled now that
I know.
there's a CD on the shelf and it's like I don't want to walk over and take it out of the case and drop it in the player and hit play. That's like too much work. I just want to press a button and it play
Yeah.
for me. So it's funny how far we've come. Like convenience is nice, but you wonder, are we headed towards a Wall-E type of future?
Oh yeah, I wonder that all the time. It's it's funny because back in the day, you would take the record out of the sleeve and put it on the record player, put that needle down real careful, and you would sit there and listen to it, and you wouldn't be doing anything else but listening to music. And that's definitely something that's gone with the dodo.
Hmm.
It's barely existent now. Not many people just do that.
I think it's part of. I think it's part of the part is the ritual, right? Of opening the case, of putting it on the turntable, of dropping the needle just right, and reading the lyrics
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
cover, and looking at the cover art and the acknowledgments and all those things. Even with the CD, sometimes it took you 20 minutes to open the stupid plastic that was around the CD, but it was still this ritual that it was you held it in your hands and it was you pulled it out and you listened to it and it was a this ritual that you went through that I feel like gave you a more of an appreciation for the content because you
That's
had
yeah,
that connection with it.
yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. The appreciation for the content. Um, I think I think that's when it's so easy to just hit a button and listen to Spotify
Hmm.
and just throw stuff in your favorites or whatever. Um, I think the appreciation level goes down, and you move on to the next thing very quickly.
Hmm.
And there's something to be said about owning that physical piece of media and treasuring it, and then wanting to learn more about it. wanting to delve into what you're listening to or what you're reading
Hmm.
and take it in. And there's something that I think has a different um, brain pattern or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it that connects different synapses in your brain or whatever, that creates something else
Hmm.
than the immediacy of moving on to the next thing and not putting any effort into what you're consuming.
Yeah, and I think that's why maybe this may not be something people consciously think about, but I think the act of reading is one of those things that you have to slow down and you have to get the book, you have to focus. You can't really do anything else while you're reading. It's something that you have to actively participate in, even with something that's easy to read or that's, that it's not, I don't want to say too complex, but it's not dense. It's, you still have to actively be there and engage with the text. So I think that's why reading, a lot of readers enjoy that, because you have to slow down in a world that we're always moving. We're always on to the next thing with algorithms, and all these things are constantly in our brains. To read, you sit down. Well, I think most people would sit down in a quiet place or a place where they can focus
Hmm.
and read and engage with the text and be taken to some another world or whatever it may be. But I think that's part of the allure of reading, is to slow down and to have almost a ritual. I think we all have our own rituals when we read too.
Yeah, true. And there's been research into how our brains are being rewired by um, by this information age, by the internet, by the devices, and everything that goes with it. And there's there's concern or excitement, depending on who you are, about how the human race is going to look in another 40, 50 years, and how there it there's going to be this theories of like this uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Accelerated evolution, basically, that that people are positing, and scientists and stuff like that, neurologists and
Hmm.
what have you. Even Harari, Noel Yuval Harari, the guy who wrote *Sapiens*,
Hmm.
he delves into it pretty deeply in his book, his second book, *Homo Deus* and *Deus*, however you say that. Um, and
Hmm.
where he posits about the future of humanity and how this technology specifically is going to affect us, and it's pretty fascinating.
And then you wonder. So I there's there I forget the name of the book. It was a book I read a couple of years ago about the effects of the constant, for us to engage with so many people and to have input from so many different people all over the world constantly. Like you said, our brains just aren't wired in a way to handle that. At least not yet. I mean,
Right.
we you know we've went for so long with a way we would have time to decompress and to reflect and to take a breath, and now we don't really have that anymore because there's a constant inflow of information from so many different sources. So you wonder how someone in a, like, who lives in an environment like we live versus someone who lives without that constant flow of information. If there are people who aren't engaging that much with their cultures or their part of the world they live in, aren't engaging as much. So you wonder if there'll be a divide there somehow over the course of generations.
Mm. Yeah, it's a good question. Good question.
I don't know. I'm gonna go yell at the kids on the lawn, I guess. But it is. But yeah, I do think, not to sound too crotchety, but I do think that's why maybe not consciously people read, but I think that's why a lot of readers enjoy reading, because it's a peaceful time for them. They can sit and
Yeah.
read something. It takes them away to another world, and it's something that you can escape for
Right.
the most
Yeah.
part. Because if you're reading on your phone and your notifications are coming, you're not going to really be able to enjoy reading I would imagine if you really want to soak in the text.
Right. Yeah, either reading or listening to a great Friday conversation podcast, or
Speculations or
yeah. Um, no, I agree, and so, some of the predictions aren't all doom and gloom.
Mhm.
Some of it's will adapt and will manage and will find other ways to get what we need as far as that kind of peace or what have you that people may be looking for. But of course, some of it is doom and gloom. Some of it is like, this is really bad. So it all depends on what you read and who you listen to. But it's interesting times for sure.
Yeah. When in the early 90s or so, when the technological revolution was happening, you didn't really know what to expect because it was moving so fast.
Mm.
So it's interesting to see how much things have changed in the past 30 years, how far we've come, so it's interesting. But, when I think about digital content and I think about like my Steam account, which I don't really use anymore because I don't have time, but, I have probably, I don't know, 50, 60 games on Steam. Some of them are $5, some of them are 60. But to think that can all be taken away, I can be banned on Steam for whatever reason, or my account can be deleted or whatever happens. I can lose access to it, and all those games I don't own, they can disappear.
Yeah, that's a concern. It was always a concern with me whenever my kids would get on Steam and want a game for Christmas, and you have nothing to give them except an envelope that says you now have Steam.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are they actually getting? And it's it's a concern, and you just don't know. And yeah, I guess you could say that your Xbox would eventually break and you'd get another one, or the DVD would get ruined or scratched or whatever, and you'd have to get another one. So you'd be in the same boat as if they took it away for some reason online. So I guess you could argue that point. Books can get ruined, stuff can happen.
Yeah, but if you ruin it, then it's yours, and you ruined your property. So that, I mean,
it's on you. Yeah.
Oh, Varsha's here.
Oh, the boss.
Don't think she can hear us just yet, so we'll just say nice things about her until she can hear us. Yeah, but so Varsha disappeared. She's popping in and out. But I wanted to add another point that was made in that video was that Amazon is not good for authors, and I was surprised to. Well, I mean, so there's of course there's bad things. There's negatives to publishing with KDP and to be a part of Kindle Unlimited, because you're exclusive. You can't publish it. You can't use the same number to publish it with another platform.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I wanted to ask Thomas, who's going to join us here in a minute, what was because Thomas J. Devins, who's an author, I wanted to ask him his thoughts on whether it's a net negative or net positive for authors, for him anyway. Because while there are negatives, I wonder if it's a positive, because without it, could you publish your book and get it to so many people without the platform available to you? So it's an interesting concept.
I'm not sure how it works today. KDP wasn't around when I had mine published way back when, and I also published through a independent small press publisher who then puts it on Amazon. So I'm not sure how that works either. But and I never got anything out of it anyways. It was pennies, but it was I'm not sure how that KDP thing works. That's interesting.
But just to see you publish a book is pretty damn cool. I mean, just that you did it, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, no, I'll be forever proud of that. But I will be forever broke about it. But it's great.
Varsha, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
I
cool.
hadn't inserted my microphone jack far enough.
Oh, it happens. Glad you
So the
could join us
problem
for.
was,
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to work while listening to you guys talk, and maybe say something occasionally myself. It's what I normally do when I'm working. I throw on a Friday conversation
Oh,
and listen to it.
oh, cool. So while we have you, before you have to go back to work, we were just talking about digital content, and if there's a concern for you that we never really own our digital content, that can be we just lease it. So is that a concern for you?
It is. Um, I mean, yes, I think it is in the sense of like loss of privacy and stuff like that. But I also kind of feel like I have to live with it. I'll swap some of the possibility of privacy loss for the convenience. I think I've been sort of okay with that. But also, I don't interact a whole lot on social media, and I lie about my date of birth. So, uh, when websites ask me for it, why does Instacart need to know how old I am? Like, why? Why is that a thing? So, yeah, I'm. That's not enough, I'm sure, but I try to do what I can to scramble my information. But yeah, it is a concern, but I guess I've kind of learned to live with it, which is not good. We shouldn't have to do that. People's data and privacy shouldn't be sold. But
So with your content, with like let's say your ebooks or the movies you buy, your digital movies, the fact that they can disappear tomorrow, is that a concern for you? Because we don't actually own the digital content like the books and the movies and
I think I misunderstood. I thought you meant the stuff that I create on my phone and stuff. Because
no,
maybe
that's
I
true.
was watching
It's all related.
a Ted Lasso episode yesterday that addressed this point, so that was fresh in my head. But yeah, I think that's a problem. I'm paying for it, like, and sometimes it costs as much as a physical paperback. I get to keep that for as long as I need, and I get to do things with it that, like, I can loan it out to people and take it back. I was hoping they'd make it more like the physical thing, not restrict it more. And I don't know, there was something that I tried to use the other day for which they took a lot of money, and they're like, you have access to this for 1 year. Why? I'm paying $100 for this. Why do I only have access for a year for this? Why can't I just download it and keep it? Like, I get that there's a lot of concern around piracy, and there's more scope for it if they let people handle their digital content more. But I I don't think that's enough justification for not letting me keep it forever. I paid for it. So
Access for a year. Is it a
yeah,
program or?
yeah, I think it was lessons. I'm trying to remember, was it a yeah, it was a workout program that was charging $100. And sure, I can cycle through it as many times as I want on Train Heroic, but you have access to it for a year. I mean, it's being delivered through Train Heroic, so that's going to make it harder for me to disseminate it to other people. So why not just let me have it?
Yeah, it's interesting because with Amazon, I was telling Jared, I saw a video about that a YouTuber had made about Amazon and not owning his books, and they can be removed because they're just being leased. So then that was something that he was concerned with, is not owning the books, and the books can be changed or altered at any time. So
Yeah, I mean, altered. I guess I'm kind of okay with that. Like, if that's a nice thing about digital content, that you can go make updates after the fact, which you can't do with paperbacks. The mistakes are there forever and ever and ever. But if you, yeah, like, if I think that I'm buying this and I get to keep it, I I should get to keep it. Like, don't. And I think there is another dimension to this that I am concerned about, but I haven't managed to address yet. I do plan to eventually move back to my home country. And I think a lot of the stuff that I bought while I was in the United States will probably not have the right license for me to keep continued access of it.
Wow.
So, but I've paid for it. Why shouldn't I have access? So I've built up a bit of a digital library that I'm afraid I'll lose a significant portion of when I move, which is sad. You'd think
Mm-hmm.
digital stuff you can keep while needing to get rid of the physical stuff, but
I guess the workaround for that would be to go to have a device and then go to airplane mode and never connect again.
yeah,
But then if that
yeah,
device dies, then
you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also they don't let you download. Most, I know YouTube lets you download, but they keep checking your subscription periodically. Prime doesn't let you download most of my digital libraries on Prime because like it's just convenient. Um, and yeah, and Netflix and such. Well, okay, that I'm not paying for specific videos. I'm just paying for a subscription, so that's fine. But when I'm paying for specific videos, if I lose access to it because I moved countries, that's ridiculous. But yeah, it's I have gripes about a lot of systemic things this week. I'm particularly angry about insurance, but we'll talk about that later.
it can get you angry for sure.
Yeah.
And Thomas, thanks for joining us.
Hey,
Thanks for
Thomas.
having me. I just scarfed down some stuffed shells real quick and popped on.
Nice. Yeah, glad you could make
Nice.
it. It was a last minute, why not kind of thing.
When you put up that 8 o'clock, I was like, perfect. And then
Oh yeah.
I was like,
I
oh, no,
failed
that's going to
math.
be a rush.
Yeah. Yeah, I failed math. But yeah, so I'm going to put you on the spot, not in a bad way, of course, but we were discussing a video that I watched, and we were just talking about digital content and the fact that we're just leasing our digital content. And specifically, the person who made the video was referencing Amazon. And during his video, he mentioned that another gripe he has with Amazon is that Amazon is bad for authors, but is kind of, I'm not sure if that's true, because I know that there's bad things about Amazon, of course, with authors and KDP and being exclusive, but without Amazon and KDP, how much harder would it be to publish your book if you're self-publishing? So is Amazon ultimately a net negative or net positive? And I'm asking you because you're an author, so want to get your take on it.
For me, I think it's probably overall a net positive because I don't know what I'm doing. And it does simplify things drastically. And if I took time to look into it more, I would imagine there's ways that I could work around and use different, different companies or whatever and find a better way. And I would not be surprised if there's plenty of things better than Amazon out there. But I've never used Ingram Sparks. I've heard that that's pretty simple as well and very similar. But I've always just used KDP because it was quick to figure out. And I mean, every time I publish a book, I feel like I have to relearn what I'm doing. Like, just like the process of uploading everything and converting everything to whatever. So keeping it simple is probably best. But then just the print on demand in general, I think is very helpful because you don't have to have boxes and boxes of books in your house that you don't know if you're going to sell, and you don't need to have that money up front. So print on demand in general is definitely very helpful for authors that don't have the means to go any other route. But then I know there are various print on demand companies other than Ingram Sparks, even, I believe. So I can't really compare Amazon to anything else just because I haven't used it yet. But one day I'd like to try branching out and see what else is there. I know there are things like with KDP, like my novellas, I've been keeping the ebooks at 99 cents. Just they're short. I feel like that's a reasonable price. But if you have anything below $2.99, you're no longer eligible for the 70% royalty. So you get a 35% royalty. So because I dropped them down to 99 cents, I get 35 cents for every book. And Amazon gets the other math 60,
the other
64.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's quite the difference. Wow.
Yeah.
Why would they? Why would they do that? I mean, maybe I'm just an idiot. But why would they encourage people to charge more if they're getting more royalties? I mean, I'm probably missing the point of that.
I don't know how it works. It might be some sort of like the digital delivery fees, which I don't really know how much that affects it. I don't know enough about computers and stuff like that to take a guess. So it could have to do with that however much, the couple cents that probably costs, they don't want to be, because they don't factor that into the ebook sales usually. Whereas like the paperbacks, you get your royalty after the printing costs are taken out.
Wow. So if someone wants to, because I get asked this a lot by readers who are wanting to support the authors they enjoy and they want to support their work. Do you get more? I'm assuming, considering the price, I'm assuming you would get more royalties from a paperback purchase than an ebook purchase, or no?
Nope.
Or is there? Oh, wow.
Paperback is 35%, I believe, after printing costs. So if you have a book for $10, printing cost is $5, then you get 35% of that leftover $5. On the other hand, though, you could also get your author copies at the cost of printing and shipping. And then you can sell those yourself. And then, so if you have a book that's $10, you order them, it's $5 for printing, and then say add on another like $1 a book for shipping. Then there's the $4 profit if you sell it at 10. That's all yours.
Wow. So then it would I guess it would be a benefit to buy bulk and to sell them like locally or direct that way, because it would be, if you were charging for them, you would get more return that way. But it also more of an upfront investment if you're going to purchase that many books and then have a box of books laying around that you have to kind of offload.
Yeah. But also you could do it that way, and rather than having to get books printed yourself and having a box of hundreds or thousands of books, you could have like 20 copies on hand.
And then I guess you factor in shipping costs and the time investment it takes to box and ship and label and all that. Yeah,
yeah.
And you'd have to be.
It definitely works out best, I think, for having copies, and then like if you have an event going on locally and you could sell them at that, that's best. But also shipping within the US isn't too much of a hassle. Shipping overseas is another story. I know I was going to send copies for the copies of my books for the library at the Nerdy Cafe where Holly has the event going on this weekend. And I took my 3 books, boxed them up, went to the post office, $80 to ship to the UK.
Wow.
It cost me less to go onto Amazon, buy a copy of each of my books, and send them there that way.
Jeez.
Wow.
So so let's say you take your book to a local bookstore and ask them for shelf space, let's say for 5 copies of your book. because you publish with KDP, can you do that? Or is it exclusive to Amazon? You can't use another store to sell your books?
You can have them at other stores. The only exclusive that Amazon has is to be on like Kindle Unlimited and all that. You have to have they want exclusivity on the ebook. So you can't have your ebook available anywhere else if you want it to be available on Kindle Unlimited. And then I think that's what also gets you the 70% royalty that if your book's under $2.99, it doesn't matter anyway. But then paperbacks you can sell elsewhere.
It's quite the system. So with Kindle Unlimited, is it worth being a part of Kindle Unlimited? Is because it's page reads, right? That every page read or every page that is flipped through digitally goes towards a page count, and then it pulls from a pool of everyone in Kindle Unlimited, and then you get a percentage of that. Is that how it works still?
Yeah, I don't really know the exact workings of it, but that sounds about right. And it works out. At first, I thought that kind of worked out evenly, but I noticed recently I had, I think, 130 page reads on the Scroungers. So basically, the whole book was read. And I think I made like $1 or so off of that on the page reads, rather than the 35 cents I would have made selling a copy.
Oh.
Huh.
But then my on the novels, if it's at $2.99, I think then it just kind of evens out. At one point, or it just changes so much month to month with the unlimited, like the pot that they draw from, that it can be all over the place. Because at one point, I definitely did the math, and it seemed like it kind of broke even. But then, like 2 months ago, it seemed like I made more through the page reads.
And can you change that for a book? Like you start with the percentage and then change to page reads and back, or does it stay put once you configure it for
No,
any book?
you can drop out of the Kindle Unlimited or join back up for it if you want.
Oh, okay.
The only requirement is that I think if you make your ebook available in other places and you want to go back onto Kindle Unlimited, you have to take it down from all those other spots.
I see.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I have a question for you, because we did talk about leasing an ebook. So if you took it down from the other spots, okay, let's say that I bought your book on another platform, your ebook, and you decided to go to Kindle Unlimited, would they remove the ebook from my device because you went back to Amazon exclusively?
I don't think so. I certainly hope not. I would be pissed if I found out that happened. If anything like that ever happens, I would say if that ever happened with one of my books, someone should email me and I will email them a copy. Because I don't like that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think that would happen. But I have no idea.
I don't think so. I'm just curious if that's a thing or not, but I would imagine not.
I mean, I was always like nervous when I first started using Audible and stuff. Like, all right, I don't want to be paying for this every month. I'm going to cancel it. And I was like, wait, are they going to take all my books away? Am I still going to be able to access these? And yeah, at first I just had no idea. It like most digital media was new to me, and honestly, this is only a few years ago, so that's kind of bad. But
oh, that's the other thing with an expiration date when you've already paid for it. Audible credits, they expire. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Already paid for
Yeah.
it. I think they in theory come with your monthly subscription. So, okay, let's say they're within their rights to let them expire. But I think the ones you pay for separately also expire, um, which kind of sucks. But
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. It's after a certain amount of time.
I think it's about a year. It is technically long enough to, but what if you have a full year of only listening to things that are in the Audible library, and then you never use the credit but it expires?
I just put mine on hold for a couple months just because I have a lot of stuff that I have to catch up on. And I had 3 credits, I think, before I put it on hold. And I was like, I'm just going to spend those before I take any chances of losing them.
Yeah. I think if you suspend the account, you have a month or something before your credits, before you can't use your credit again. Or maybe you lose access to them immediately, so you have to buy stuff with the credit and then cancel or something like that. I remember reading all of that when I first got my membership, but yeah, it's all pretty iffy.
This stuff reminds me of the Kindle Unlimited and the Audible. I don't know if any of you remember when I was younger, you could mail order. You could join a book club and get a book sent in the mail every month or so often like that. And of course the books would just pile up, or you get a CD every month, and you'd like run out of stuff to pick because you weren't interested. You only did it because you were interested in a couple of things of getting, and they never had the stuff you wanted. but it's like you ended up paying for these subscriptions. So that idea has been around for a long time.
Definitely remember getting like the page, like the leaflet with all the CDs to pick from.
Yeah.
And always being like, this sounds like a scam.
Yep. For a penny, yeah. And the Columbia Rec Club or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. I did it once, and I was like, I got my 5 CDs or whatever, and I was like, I always had the hardest time picking something the next month because I was like, they don't have anything I want.
It's wild now. You can there's a UCD place near me that I like to go to, but sometimes their prices are so high that it's like I could just buy this on Amazon or another place new, so I dish out the extra cash because I'm trying to support the local businesses, but it's not always, it's like, ugh, like I could buy a new version of this, but it's one of those things. Yeah. Thrift stores are a good place to buy books and other like CDs and DVDs. You can get really good deals on media like that. And if it's a popular book, you might even find it at a thrift store somewhere. There's some good finds out there, especially like Stephen King, or if you're into romance, I'm sure there's 1,000 romance books at most thrift stores. Because I don't know, like no one that I've met is like, yes, I read exclusively romance, but someone's reading that. So I don't know where they are, but they're reading it.
Yeah, there's a used bookstore down the next town over from me, and it's a pretty big used bookstore. And I've seen people walk in there with stacks of books, and this is romance books, and then walk out with just as big a stack. So they're definitely out there, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of people who read romance, and they those little used bookstores kind of thrive on that. They kind of need that to keep them going. But I've gone there and I've gotten a few of Janie Wirt's books there, and Raymond Feist and the Zelazny and stuff like that. Some of the older authors, 80s and 70s and 90s authors that were around. They have a lot of those. Nothing too recent, unfortunately, but
Are they mass market paperbacks?
Mostly, yeah. There are some hardcovers there, though, but mostly mass market. Yeah.
There's a used bookstore near me it must be like 2,000 square feet of just wall-to-wall mass markets, and all the spines are broken everywhere.
Yeah,
I can't handle it. I haven't found one of the Malazan books. I forget which one. It was one of Jenny's books in there, and it was just sad seeing them all in these little mass markets with the broken spines, and they just look so sad. Like,
yeah,
who did this to you?
Yeah, I got Toll the Hounds there because they only had it digitally, so I was like, I just got it there, and it's pretty beat up, but I like having the physical copy too. So.
Not a fan of the mass markets. I know people love it, but
I always liked them, especially when I was doing construction, because they fit perfectly in your back pocket. So I would go into work and just have my book in my back pocket, walk to work or whatever, and do what I had to, and I had it for when I took my breaks. And beat the shit out of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were definitely falling apart by the time I was done reading them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have the whole Robert Adams Horse Clans run from the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. It's like 24 books, and they're all the small mass market paperbacks, and they are beat. They are beat to hell, but I love them. Couldn't fit a Malazan book in your back pocket, though.
Gardens of the Moon, I did. Once it moved on from there, I was like, this isn't working.
You need a really good belt to put one of those in your pocket because it'll pull your pants down all day long. Like a break in your pocket.
You got to wear Jenkos to put the crippled god in your back pocket.
I don't know. I've tried to read. I forget what book it was that I tried to read mass market, and it was a thick book, and I just could not. I just couldn't do it because it's so hard to. I think it was Gardens of the Moon, in fact, because it was a mass market of Gardens of the Moon, and that book is already so confusing anyway. And then you're trying to like maneuver yourself to like read the pages, and it's such a pain in the ass. I just couldn't do it. I'm much happier with the trade. So now I have to go back and find the trades for the last several copies now that Varsha's making us read Malazan.
Yes, she is. So Malazan, I think I read the mass market up to House of Chains, I think. Yeah, it was probably Midnight Tides that I finally like gave up and shelled out the money for the trades because I got cramps, right? No joke. I got cramps trying to hold the mass market paperback open. Like I can't do this. I can't give myself carpal tunnel while reading a book.
It's so thick.
and I like pre-broke the spine and everything, and still it was hard to hold because like just the thickness. My hand was in this position for a long time. Nice.
Jared has a mass market of the crippled god, and the spine is crying and begging.
It's destroyed. It's all right. Well loved. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Mine's not quite as bad because I went back and forth between the mass market and the audiobook. So it's only got a few bad cracks in it.
It's rough.
I've had covers fall off and I had to scotch tape them back on.
The only books I've had that happened to me for, well, apart from the second-hand books that I read again and they fell apart in my hands, that I think the Harry Potter books, those were the ones I read enough that they started falling apart.
That's why having something like a Kindle is so nice, because it's so small and it'll fit in your pocket. But then, they have the other parts of it where it's like you don't really own it. So it's, I don't know.
So in the video, I haven't seen it yet, but what was the concern? Do they take it back or do they revoke access to a book once you buy it?
Yeah, the example he used was he bought a copy of 1984, Jared's favorite book, and I guess it became an issue because the publisher, whoever was selling that version of the ebook, didn't have the license to sell it. So I guess whoever owns the rights went to Amazon and said, "Hey, you don't have permission to sell this book." So Amazon said, "Okay, well, we'll remove it from everyone's Kindles. Whoever bought the ebook will remove it." So they
Did they
removed
refund?
it. No.
Did they refund? What?
No, because you just lease the content. You don't own it. So they can remove it. They can alter it. They can do anything because it's their property that you don't own any of it. So if you bought that version of 1984, then they took it off your Kindle, and I'm sure some people probably didn't even notice, but yeah, it was a thing, I guess. And also, he talked about he bought a version of the first or one of the Wheel of Time books, and he couldn't find it on his Kindle because they had changed the cover to the newest cover, not the cover that the classic quote unquote cover. So it can be altered. I can see how having that ability to change things, like if you have a book that you publish and you find an error, you can say, oh shit, I can go back and fix that. And, you can fix I misspelled a word or this grammar is incorrect or whatever. You can fix it, stealthily fix it. But then if on the flip side, if someone reads a book and has a problem with the content or it's offensive to someone for whatever reason, then they can also change that. So if you have a paperback, you have the original version. And then if you own digital, then they can change it after the fact.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see how if we like to do this during investigation of difficult like bugs and stuff. You write something and then some of the tools that we use don't let you change back, so that you have a good log of what you did at each point. um, and I can see how if someone wrote, you can't retroactively say no, it was never there. If you just never allow it to change, right? If they wrote something that might be perceived as offensive. But about covers, I don't know if this is still possible to do on the newer Kindle devices, but I used to be able to go download a different cover for my books if I didn't like the one that they had.
Oh,
But I don't know if that's still something that you can do, or if it is, I don't know how to do it on my current Kindle devices. But on the earlier versions, I used to be able to do that, and I spent a lot of time looking and setting up, looking for and setting up covers I liked.
so much. It can get so complicated. There's so many things, and like Thomas, you mentioned you don't know what you're doing, and formatting seems like a big pain in the ass. This seems like the biggest pain in the ass is formatting.
It was, but once I figured out how to format the first time around, when I did Stone and Shield, I did a horrible job and published it, and then it was like, oh, I did a horrible job, and then I went back and fixed it, and then I saved the Word document with it all formatted, and then deleted everything, and I copy and paste every chapter into that same Word document ever since. So it matches the formatting that was there. And just as I write a chapter, I toss it in. I save all my chapters separately. Then once I'm done with the editing and everything, and I'm getting ready to finish and getting ready to publish, I just copy and paste everything into that already formatted file and maybe tweak a few things here and there. But for the most part, it's all set to go.
That thing's probably gold for some authors who are like banging their heads against their desk right now trying to figure out how to format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here formatting text and covers is also a pain to format a cover.
When I did Stone and Shield and Split Paths, originally they had covers I did myself that were awful. But the formatting aspect wasn't too hard. The artwork, I can't do that. But other than that, it's because you get the dimensions and you can get a template with like where the bleed and everything has to be. And when I was a teenager, I used to use Microsoft Paint
Yeah.
to make the J cards for my band's demo tapes and print them out and have them folded in the right spot so you could have like 3 folds to go into the cassette tape holder. So it's kind of just like after doing that so many times when I was a teenager with Microsoft Word, where I would like print out a page that just had lines on it and then count which lines were the right dimensions and then erase the rest and then put everything in it. And then like use that as a template and then photocopy it a bunch of times. So I think that kind of warmed me up for following cover templates.
I still use Paint sometimes. When I'm feeling saucy, it's like, why not? It can come in handy sometimes.
Oh, I have a question about sort of typesetting books. Since you were talking about formatting, how do you pick the font and then set it up? Like, is there a tool you use for typesetting, or did you hand manage it?
For the fonts, I just went through and picked out, like, found ones I liked that were royalty free for like title pages and stuff like that, and then put them in Microsoft Word. And then they don't always cross over. Like in the print book, you convert it to a PDF and then upload it for the paperback. And then usually all those fonts and everything stay the same. I haven't figured out how to get that to work for the ebook, but then it ends up just converting it to whatever standard font. And then I'm pretty sure in like ebook readers, you usually have some sort of an option when you're reading to change fonts between like 2 or 3 different options or something like that. So
Yeah,
I think it
there's
just
only like
changes
4
no matter
options.
what.
Yeah. So the text font also, you'd pick something that's royalty free and
Yeah, for the text, I usually just use Times New Roman.
okay, fair enough. Classic, right?
Yeah, just standard. Oh,
Jeez, sorry, I was taking a drink of my beer and I forgot to unmute myself. I was just saying successfully that it's probably not good to get too fancy with your fonts and things, because in the size changes of the font, and then it may be less room and really mess up your formatting.
yeah.
It sounds like a lot of work, especially with that kind of stuff, because we talk all the time about publishing your own book, and it seems like writing the book is the easy part. It's all the rest that's the hard part.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, that's the case. And as Alex was pointing out his distaste earlier, coming up with the synopsis is the worst part.
Do you find writing comes easy to you, Thomas?
For the most part,
Yeah.
it also depends on what's going on in life at the time. But yeah, usually I sit down and I'll just start writing and it just comes out. But also sometimes you had a really long day at work and you sit down and start writing, and it's a lot more appealing to play video games or just zone out for stare at the wall and do nothing for an hour, just anything.
That kind of connects to what we talked about earlier about the constant flow of information and always being connected and always having input. And to sit and stare at the wall is underrated, because you, especially after a long day, if you're tired, or if you're kind of just fried, it's nice to just veg and to do nothing.
Yeah. Every now and then you just need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's true. I think it was Erickson put out an essay a while ago on on his Facebook page about the importance of boredom, and how being bored for just a little while actually helps you rejuvenate your mind and helps you with creativity later on and stuff like that. It was a fascinating essay. It's one of the ones he puts on Facebook every once in a while. He puts up an essay, and check it out if you ever get a chance to read it. It's pretty interesting, because I think it ties into what we were saying about having connected overload to all the stuff that we're exposed to nowadays, and it's pretty important, like you said, to just stare at the wall sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to do that. When I used to do a lot of business travel, I worked for this company who we would work. We would have a full day, and then we fly in or out. We usually fly out end of the day, and she would always tell us, like, when you're on the plane, like, write, respond to emails and write your report about the site visit or whatever. It's like that's my time to reflect and to relax and to shut off, because after 12 to 16 hours of working with someone actively, and then going to the airport and waiting in line and going to security and then waiting in line and then getting on the plane and waiting for it's like, no, I need just a couple hours to do nothing, like just to veg. So you need time to kind of decompress and reflect and do nothing.
Yeah. There's even days when I go out, I come home from work, and I'm eager to get out on the porch and read on the porch. It's a peaceful setting. I'm in the forest, basically. And sometimes I want to read, but sometimes I end up just staring at the birds at the bird feeder and just watching them do stuff, and just zoning out like that. And it ends up being peaceful, You forget about work and stuff.
What's your Zen, Varsha?
Let's see. There's this couch I like to flatten myself out on and either read or watch TV. Mostly read, I think. That's on the couch. That particular couch. It's a wide couch, so I am lying down whether I sit against the back of it or if I'm lying down on the length side of it. And I choose my position based on what I'm feeling that day. And Saturdays and Sundays, after we finish our discussions in the morning, like if I go there and then I nap sometimes. I like to fall asleep while reading, not at night, because I need to switch off the light and stuff. I don't like to fall asleep before I do all of that. But in the afternoon, I like to feel like I have enough time to take a nap, and that's okay.
What about you, Thomas? What's your Zen?
I also have a bird feeder on the deck. That's definitely one of the nice ones.
It's lovely.
And also kind of up in the woods, so yeah, but honestly, one of my Zen things is writing too, though. So sometimes just sitting down and getting that out.
Do you avoid writing if you're in a certain mood? So if you're in in a not so great mood, do you kill off characters you don't plan to kill off just out of spite? Do you punish characters when you're in a bad mood?
It's been a while, but I have before. It was great. Like, sometimes being in a bad mood is great for that kind of book. But no, I don't think it's usually just less mood affected and more just like physical exhaustion. That's usually what ends up being the thing that'll keep me from really, because if I'm like too tired and just like had a long day, I'll just sit down, and even though my job isn't too much like, I'm not doing too much mental activities, it's mostly just like repetitive motion, but my body's just like ready to shut down by the time I get home. So even like can't even just sit down and think about things. I just gotta completely zone out sometimes. Rewatch Star Trek for the 100th time.
We've been talking about that lately on speculations about Star Trek.
Yeah, red shirts.
Yeah, we read red shirts on that show, podcast, whatever we call it. We did, 3 episodes on it? That was fun. I was not prepared for how many people hadn't watched Star Trek before. I thought I'd be the only one. And it turned out more than half. Just Jared and Chris were the only ones who had previously seen Star Trek. So that was an interesting discussion.
I had seen a few of the Shatner episodes just because he was so fun when I was, I don't know, Sunday afternoons and there's like nothing else on. But yeah, I never really kept up with the other series. I kept hearing about Picard being good. But I think during the pandemic, there was a big discussion about Picard being good, but I didn't want to jump in and not know what's happening. And it just feels daunting to go back into, like, where do you start? So I guess that's the question is, where do you start with Star Trek? Someone who's never watched it.
It depends. I mean, you can start wherever you want. They're episodic generally, so
Yeah.
you can just jump in and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
If you want to start with Picard, I'd say Next Generation, start with season 4? 3 or 4, I forget. It takes a little while for it to get going. So rather than when a lot of people will recommend a series to someone and be like, yeah, you just got to get through the first 3 seasons. Just skip the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Start on season 4, and then if you're enjoying it, you could go back and watch them because you'll still figure out what's going on.
Yeah, there's not a lot of have to know what went on before.
Yeah,
in those old shows like that.
So nobody dies. Is that what you're saying?
Just the red shirts.
I need death and destruction. Just the red shirts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you watch Deep Space Nine, which was my personal favorite, that one gets more serialized, but also I think start at season 3 or 4.
Remember that being? Is there more than one version of that? Because I remember it being a thing in the 90s. Is that the?
90s,
or is there
yeah.
another?
Yeah.
Is there another?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's it.
I could have sworn there was something. There was another series or like a reboot or something after that, but maybe I'm thinking about something else.
There was, because Deep Space Nine and Voyager pretty much ran at the same time, just like staggered slightly, I think. And then also, wasn't there one of the other sci-fi shows that
Yeah,
is
Babylon
very
5
similar to? Yep,
ran
I
at
haven't
the
seen
same
that
time.
yet,
Was kind of competing with Deep Space Nine, because they had a similar, setup. A space station in space, basically, with a bunch of humans and alien races involved, and so it was. They were actually kind of competing at the during the 90s.
So I guess it's a good time to ask this question. Make Chris and Parmeet happy. We had a forum. One of the forum battles was Star Wars or Star Trek. So, where does everyone side on that argument? I think it was tied last I looked. The forum battle for that one.
Yeah, I think it did. I know how I voted. My vote doesn't change.
And
I haven't seen either, so.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, I have technically seen Star Wars, but it was when I was half asleep because my friend made me watch it and wouldn't stop. And I think we did a marathon or something, and I fell asleep halfway through the first movie.
A
So
marathon. You lasted an hour in like a 10-hour marathon.
yes,
That's a long nap.
well, I think he gave up after. So there were 4 or 5 of us who were watching it together. I fell asleep first, I think, which is ironic because I stay up very late. I am capable of staying up until 3 or 4 when I'm really interested in something. So that should tell you what I thought of it. um, and then people kept dropping one by one, so he had to stop.
Yeah.
Jared?
Which movie
Well,
was it?
I'm all Star Wars. Star Wars all day. Yeah.
Really? Oh, did you say
yeah.
Star Trek? Oh,
No, I voted Star Wars. Yeah.
Right.
It's because it's fantasy. That's my thing.
and Thomas, you're a Star Trek?
Which is funny because I usually do prefer fantasy. So you would think I would go with the Star Wars, which I do agree is fantasy. But yeah, no, I love Star Trek. I like Star Wars too, but I prefer Star Trek, at least nowadays.
Yeah, so that's interesting because you look at the franchises and do you judge it by the movies that you love the most, or do you judge it by kind of where they currently are? Because Star Wars seems to have a dip in quality because whenever Disney gets a hold of something, they just pump out content. And when you pump out content so fast, the quality will go down. Like I loved Andor. I thought Andor was great. I loved Rogue One. I even thought Solo wasn't that bad. Unpopular opinion. I thought it was okay. That was fun. But there's some other things that have been pretty bad. Or even like Mandalorian, first couple of seasons were okay. But you have the danger of watering down the franchise and bringing the quality down when you have so much content so fast.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. You're right. Yeah, that's an interesting question because there's definitely some lows with Star Wars. And I'm definitely basing my vote on nostalgia for those original movies. That I saw. Like I saw Star Wars, the first one, in the drive-in theater.
Wow.
If you can remember those. But so, and there was something special about it, and I grew up with it. I got all the toys. That was it. Star Trek was that show that was on TV. But Star Wars was the big theater event, and it was just such a way more bigger event for me growing up, and Star Trek was like, oh, did I happen to catch it this time? No, man, okay, no big deal. It's episodic, so I'm not gonna miss anything. I'll watch it next week or whatever.
It sounds kind of similar to what we talked about during the Penguin discussion, Jared, about binging and versus not binging, because when you have the time in between episodes, there's time to kind of reflect and talk about it. And when you binge it, it's all at once, and it's like, okay, no, it doesn't last as long. But like you said, it's an event, and you have the anticipation, the build up to the dates in theaters, and it's of course, theaters are a whole nother thing, but well, now they are. Anyway,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's funny because Star Wars wasn't a series until much later, until they did Clone Wars or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have there wasn't a direct comparison really between Star Trek and Star Wars until Star Trek put out movies. Then those were an event. When Star Trek, the first movie, came out, and that was a pretty big deal at the time, I remember. And but it's still it was after Star Wars had already come, so nothing was going to beat that shine in the theaters. As big a deal as the Star Trek movies were, it still wasn't going to beat that initial impact that Star Wars had as far as sci-fi in the theaters goes.
Mm-hmm.
But they definitely had the TV all there.
Varsha fell asleep during a marathon the first hour.
Yes, she did. Okay, to be fair, I think I may have been recovering from like a bad on-call week or something and maybe was just inclined to be more sleepy. But what I saw didn't interest me enough to go back and watch more. I think, not that I thought it was bad, it's just this is a thing for me with older movies in general. They move so slow. I feel like I don't have the patience for that. I need to build it. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of good stuff, but at the moment, I don't go choosing older movies.
It's really interesting considering Malazan. You're such a fan of Malazan.
That's true. I think I have a lot more patience with books than I do movies and TV shows.
This is from the person who's making us read Sci-Fi Masterworks series, every book. Malazan, Wars of Light and Shadow. What else is she making us do? Oh, everything in the big book of science fiction. Yeah, okay. No patience. All right. Moving too slow. Okay.
For movies and TV shows. It's not a general problem I have, just with movies and TV shows.
Okay.
I think I want to be entertained, you know?
So you start, okay, so the marathon, I'm guessing you did this after the prequels, or I guess what the purists would say, episodes 1 through 3. What movie did you start with during the marathon? Did you start with the 1979, or what was it, Star Wars, or did you start with, what was the first one? Jeez. The first prequel?
The Phantom
Menace? Yeah.
No, we didn't do the prequels. I don't think we got around to it. I think we started the one, the first one, like not chronological, what I was going to say publication order, what's release order?
Chronological order?
Yeah. That.
I guess. Or
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I know some people get really upset, like, that is not the first Star Wars movie. It's like, it's the first one that was released. I don't know.
Yeah. First by release order.
Yeah.
A New Hope.
Yeah,
A New Hope, there you go.
I think so. Yes. It was all brown. Lots of brown is what I remember. The guy was wearing a gray, not gray, but like a white or beige shirt. The landscape is brown. Everything, their tent was beige. Just a lot of browns and
oh, you mean Dune?
Brownish whites. Dune?
Lots of dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Star Wars universe has a lot of comic books too. I know there's and even novels that add to the universe. And I think some have even, I forget the character that became canon, that George Lucas made canon. That's General. Jeez. One of the characters was made canon, so that's kind of cool that people can add to the universe, then it can become canon eventually.
Yeah, you mean the blue guy?
Yes, I forget his name.
General Thrawn.
Thrawn, yeah.
Thrawn, is that it? Yeah.
So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that was exciting too when those comics first came out. Because I missed the original Marvel comic book run when Dark Horse picked up the license in the 80s. That was pretty exciting stuff. That was good stuff. Remember collecting those. And I sold them at the right time. Like I got I got the first issue and I sold it like in the first 6 months, and I sold it for like $60. And I was like, yeah. That was
nice.
Good. Yeah. And then I sold them all, and I got the trade. The money, and I was like, yeah, there we go.
I had the first 60 issues of The Walking Dead when it was being released, and then when the show started, it's like all the prices just were ridiculous. So I sold them all
Nice.
and bought the trades instead.
Yeah.
That was the thing for a while.
Yeah, I don't even know if you can do that nowadays.
eBay.
Yeah.
So Thomas, how's the Scroungers doing? And can you tell us about what the Scroungers is for people who aren't familiar with it? Your newest novella.
Oh, that is no longer my newest novella. As of today.
Nice.
Yeah, so the Scroungers was the first novella of the Vermin of the Old Empire series, which is a new series I'm working on that's all standalone shorter fiction. So short stories and novellas. And at this point, every book is going to take place kind of concurrently. So they all start out at the end of this massive battle. And then they just branch off following different people in their life surviving after this battle. So the Scroungers follows a bunch of people that end up going into the nearest city, and it's all of these people from opposing armies and stuff that all of like the higher ranking officials, the generals, the lords, some kings, they all fell in the battle. And then all of like the people that were fighting for them are just, why are we doing this? Like, they're dead, let's stop. So the armies kind of dissipate, and some of them start working together. They stop caring about their national affiliations and stuff like that. And then, so it follows a handful of the survivors in this city, and then kind of turns into a little bit of a whodunit, where there's a killer on the loose, and some of the people that survived the battle start kind of working as city guards and try to figure out what's going on.
I love the setup of the Scroungers. It's great. Because it's kind of what you'd expect to happen if everyone's dead, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, why?
Very cool.
So the newest one, had to look. I forget today was the release. The Dregs, right?
Yep, and the pre-order just went live today. Just did the cover reveal, and it's going to be available on Halloween. I figured one of the main characters happens to be a necromancer, so thought Halloween's a good time for that.
Very nice. My pre-order is in. I missed the. We've been at work, so I haven't checked I didn't see the cover reveal just yet, but I see the post is live, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
That's a brilliant cover, by the way. I love that flaming sword you have going on there.
Thank you.
Who did your cover?
I got them from, they're actually pre-made covers. Etheric Designs. I found them on Facebook, and they don't use AI, so that's a plus. And they just have like lists of pre-made covers, and I found one that actually fit. So it was like a mixture of found one that fit the story, and I also found it before I finished the story so I could make it fit better.
Cool. Okay.
I like that cover. It's very striking. I'd be so worried to get a cover that's AI. That
Yeah.
it's because because there was a big to do about that a year and a half, 2 years ago, about the cover that was in won an award, or it was nominated for an award, and coming to find out that the cover was made with AI, and people were just viciously going after the author. He didn't know anything.
Was that in Spiffbo?
Yeah, the cover thing in Spiffbo.
Yeah.
What was it? I forget the name of the book.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Yeah.
But it's really sad, that it's good to be careful. But yeah, it was a great cover though.
It's getting harder to avoid. Like, I just went on to that Canva website to try to just make some little like promo things to put up on Twitter or whatever. And I haven't really used that before, but I couldn't like find images. Like, there's tons of AI there now too, and it's just like everything is pushing it.
Yeah, didn't a publisher use an AI cover on
Christopher
Paolini's last book? Yeah,
I
think they got a lot of flack for that too.
I don't think they changed it though, right? They were just like, "Yeah, we used AI." You're still gonna buy the book?
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't illegal or anything. It's just they did.
It's kind of wild. Does it bother you? So I guess if you're going to buy a book and the cover is obviously AI, would you not buy it because of that?
Haven't run across that yet.
Let's say your favorite author. Let's say the next Stephen Erickson book. Not that he would ever do this. I'm just saying, if this is an author you really love and the next book is like an AI cover, would you not buy it because of that?
I think I still would, because I kind of expect publishing companies to do the skeezy thing.
Oh, wow.
Like,
I think if it's a traditionally published book, I'm given to understand that authors don't have a whole lot of say in the production process.
No, that's true. The authors don't, yeah.
But if it's independently published, I think I'd be okay with that, because, you have to do a lot of things on very constrained finances for independently published books. So, yeah. I think I'm okay with AI covers and stuff. It's more it's not the use of it that bothers me. It's more that the stuff that it's built on, the generative aspects of it, they don't pay the artists whose stuff they use to train the models. And I think that's a deeper problem than the use of AI, and needs to be solved separately. And I don't think there's any point in dragging people through the mud because they used AI for something. It's convenient, it's there, and it costs less. I wouldn't fault anyone for that.
It's interesting because it's the genie's out of the bottle, I guess. So how far do we fight it until we just realize it's just part of, just is what it is? And unfortunately, I wish it wasn't, but I think it just,
Yeah.
But it is essentially theft, right? In a way.
Yeah, it would be one thing if it was sourced ethically and artists were paid and credited and asked. But I don't know if, like, as far as I'm aware, it's sort of like that ship's always already sailed sort of thing. Like, at this point, that can't really be corrected unless they actually seek out the artist. But the things are already trained, so without like completely deleting it, I don't think they can really fix that. So the artists that they were trained on no longer even have the opportunity to say that they don't want it to happen, which some people may not want to be compensated. They may just not want their art used. But I don't know. I still kind of question how it's going to turn out in the long run. if it's really going to last that much for some of it, because you have the AI images that are getting trained on whatever they're fed, and then they're getting fed AI images that are people with all these weird fingers coming out of places and stuff like that. And then they're making weird AI images based on that. And then those AI images are training it again. And I'm kind of imagining this weird, just like everything they spew out is an eldritch horror in a decade. And nothing looks realistic at all.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of old. I kind of like usually the artwork was another facet to the book that I enjoyed, especially in the old days in the 80s and stuff. That was like the height of fantasy artwork on books. When you had your Keith Parkinsons and your Larry Elmores and your Michael Whalens and Boris Vallejo and stuff. So that was part of the joy of buying a book back then, was having that spectacular cover by an artist you may recognize. So things have changed a lot these days. So and part of the joy, one of the joys of having Janie Wirtz's books is that she does those covers herself, and it's just amazing having that piece of artwork in it as part of the experience. So I would not prefer an AI. I don't think I would totally boycott it, but I definitely want that artist to be prominent and have that cover be a special part of it.
I just had to grab this, which non-visual medium, so sorry, podcast listeners. But yeah, just like even like that classic style that does not really happen anymore. Like, I feel like even some of them were kind of silly looking, but it's still this distinctive look that really places it. And I love those old covers for that.
The old horror book covers are, I think, there's some great ones. Just like the older covers that just look really ridiculous. Some of them, they just have a charm to them. They just, there's some kind of, it's nice to see them. I don't know, give you like a nostalgic feeling. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but
yeah. There was a lot of old silly covers too, but there was a lot of old great ones.
Yeah, go ahead, Varsha. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I agree that human produced is better. I think the main problem is the companies and people who make money off of AI generated art should also pay the people that they used, whose art they used to create generated AI. I think the use of it is less problematic than the fact that they don't get paid. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
No, I was just going to say the use of AI, I think if it's for a cover or something, and it doesn't really bother me too much, but if it's used to write the book, I know some people use it to kind of help them in certain points. Like they use it kind of as a guide or an assist. And I think back to, I'm going to be yelling at the clouds here again, but think back to when we would type on, because I learned to type on a typewriter way back in the day before like word processors and things like that. So you learn to type on a typewriter, and if you make a mistake, it's such a pain in the ass to fix because you have to go back and you have to go back to the exact letter you messed up and get the white out and type. And it was such a pain in the ass. For those of you who haven't experienced that, just feel thankful. But anyway, as technology progressed, we went to like a word processor, and then we went to, it would correct and then it was like, okay, you type it out, you can delete, and then it'll underline my mistakes, it'll correct my mistakes, it will correct my grammar. So is this just the next step in that evolution to where it helps me write things and I clean it up? I mean, is this the next step? Because I think back to when it was correcting my mistakes, but underline, I can just go back and fix things, and I could just kind of type willy-nilly and not really worry too much about it. Is this the next step in that progression? I hope not, but
I mean, I think like those were conveniences, right? That made repetitive or more like tasks that I'd rather not do, made them easier. For instance, just this last couple of weeks, I started using something that I thought would never work. I started using the AI generated version of that. So when things happen, like we have tickets, I guess everybody uses a ticketing system to log issues, right? And when you do investigation, you log everything that happens that you've been working on. And sometimes to summarize, to like the big guns up there, we have to do a timeline and say this happened at this time and this happened at this time, and then provide a summary. And like I've done a lot of work on the ticket already. I don't want to be spending time writing up the details. So I used so they've added an AI generation thing for the ticket tool, and I enjoy using it because because I don't have to spend an hour writing something that now gets generated in 2 seconds. Cleaning that up is easier than if I had to go write the whole thing from scratch. I think that kind of convenience I will accept, but writing like stories and I guess fiction in particular, perhaps even nonfiction, I think the style and the way the information is presented matters a lot to readers, I think. So that I find, I don't think that'll be replaced by AI anytime soon. Like I know that things, sometimes people don't care about style, and you're happy with an information dump, and the story is more important, and so on. And I'm sure that there is a class of people that AI generated literature might appeal to, but I don't see that taking over, and at least I don't think that'll be very useful in the long run. But the tooling aspect of it, these kind of summaries, that could, that I'm all for it. Reduce the work that I don't want to do, and that'll make more time for the stuff that you do want to do, right?
I gotta think about that. I gotta write corrective actions at work, so I gotta look into that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think as long as people want to create, then you're gonna get people created stuff. Because you're never gonna stop people who want to write from writing, and so you're always going to have that access to the stuff that people want to write. I just hope that anything that ever is AI created is announced as such and not pawned off as something else, or not hidden in some manner, so that we have the choice.
Yeah, that I agree. I would like to know that something was not done by a human or not entirely done by a human, more just so I can increase my own scrutiny of it if necessary, right, where it requires review.
Yeah.
And
but I think it's important that it's said, because it's so often companies will take the easy way out, and so it's important to stay on top of that stuff and say your displeasure if it's not the case. Make it known.
That, and also I think we need to know what model is being trained on, right? Like we were talking about data privacy, like all the way at the beginning of the conversation. And for art, that is okay. Maybe it's out on the internet, and you feel free to generate stuff using that. But also the text, the stuff that we post on social media, sometimes maybe even stuff that we don't think anybody has access to, might be used to train models. And sure, it's anonymized and whatnot, but I should have a say in that, in whether or not you use what I put out there to the world to train things that can speak like me.
I think Reddit, for the last couple of months, I think they're training their models on anything you post. So I think it's crawling the Reddit stuff. It's training AI. I believe all the meta platforms are using it. I think you can opt out in certain places, certain countries you can opt out. And I think Twitter is, or X or whatever the fuck it's called now. You can. I think it's also doing that too, where it trains AI models on whatever you post. And so it's a little scary because if you post a video on certain platforms, even on YouTube, I guess, I'm not sure if it's training on platforms, but you could be recycled and reused, and like deep fakes are a thing. So it's whole, because like with Riverside, you can create, I can type in text and it will have my voice reading back whatever I typed in. It's really weird. So it's really strange. And it sounds a little bit off, but not too much.
I think.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I was just going to say, I think that one of the problems is it shouldn't be opt out. It should be opt in. Like the default should be they're not using your stuff. But if they want to, maybe just the next time you log in, something pops up. Hey, we want to do this. Can we use your information? And you can say yes. But the default should be not using people's stuff.
Yes.
Agreed.
I like that. Changing the world right here on the Page Chewing podcast.
I guess for the platforms, it's so if you own a platform and you're getting paid X amount of money to have someone's AI model train on your platform, I guess their view is our platform. You choose to use it. So if you're going to use our platform, then we're going to train AI models on whatever you post because it's our world and you're in it. And it's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's scary enough that it needs regulation. That's the same reason why airplanes were scary when they first came out. So they were regulated. Cars are regulated. All this stuff is regulated because it's scary. It's dangerous. AI and the internet in general is dangerous in a way that humans weren't used to. And so there's been a lot of mystery around what to do about it all. But it's when something's that scary, when something can cause inadvertent harm, then it needs to be regulated in some manner. What that is, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of questions around that, but I think there definitely needs to be something, a plan in place of some sort.
I was going to say something, but I forgot.
It's like, so at this now that this session of Congress is over.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask how, I don't know, I think in the last year or so, or maybe a couple of years, every website has us choosing whether or not we are okay with sharing our data. First of all, who selects yes, please take my data? But also, secondly, is that actually respected, or are they just doing lip service to some regulation and they continue stealing your data in the background? I've been curious about that. I wonder if we can get someone to tell us.
Yeah.
My guess would be the latter.
From what I understand, there's been, every time there's talk of regulation, suddenly these companies self-regulate, and then the talk dies down. Yeah, quote self-regulate. Yeah. So that you do get those questions. Can we use your data and stuff like that? But it's still self-regulation at this point. It's not, until they get caught doing something else, and then somebody will yell at them, somebody will go before Congress, like Zuckerberg did a while back, and then but then nothing comes of it in Congress, and they self-regulate in order to please the public and get everybody off their back, and then, but there's going to be something else. There's going to be eventually where some company's going to be doing something, and then there'll be another congressional talk down or whatever it is. And you wonder at what point is the breaking point. What point is going to drive the people to demand their government to do something that's actually going to be an effective tool, where people are not taken advantage of, basically.
Yeah, there was another video I posted today on the forums about the new iPhone, and I guess it trains its AI on your pictures that you take, and it listens to you. They've always listened to you, right? But now they're training their AI models on your phone. So it listens to you. It has access to your camera at any time, to your microphone, which we already know that. But yeah, so it's another layer of privacy. And once you start it, is there any going back?
So why is just the new model of iPhone susceptible to this? Like, they already have a bunch of our stuff on iCloud, right? Is it that they are running the training locally on the device?
Yeah, it's on the device now, so you can't. I don't think you can opt out of it. And the reasoning is that we're scanning your photos to make the camera better or something like that, or to learn. I don't know. So there's excuses on why it's there.
Yeah,
but it's a little wild.
At some point, I got paranoid and got rid of all the Alexa and Google Home. Yeah, that was the Google's equivalent was. I got rid of them. Like, I barely use them anyway, and I don't need something listening constantly in my home. But the phone never stops, right? I disabled Siri, and yet sometimes it turns on. Like, I've disabled, but I think it's still listening.
Oh yeah, it still listens. Yeah, it listens.
Big Brother's watching you.
Yeah, I talked to Dennis E. Taylor recently, last couple months, and he talked about the power. There's concerns about the power grid because the computing power needed to train these models is more than what the grid can handle, because the computing power is going to require a lot of power to power the computers that are training. So there's concerns over whether or not our grid can handle it. And those of you who live in any bigger city know that there's problems with the grids already. So what's going to happen next if these models are requiring all this extra power? And so guess who's going to be left with more blackouts and things like that? So fun stuff.
What I miss?
Optimistic.
Wow.
I miss landlines. And not even with before all of this other stuff, but you remember when you had a phone that could be called and you might not be there, so you just check the answering machine later and you get back to people when you can. You're not available 24 hours a day. Even that I miss that.
You didn't answer. Oh, I wasn't home. Like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Now you can see that someone's read your message, they haven't responded, and then agonize over whether you made them angry.
Yeah. What were they thinking when they read that? Why haven't they responded yet? Yeah, it's crazy.
I've got a job that I like nowadays, but I could think of a few jobs when I was younger that if I had a cell phone, I would have been being bugged constantly. Like, hey, we come on, we know it's your day off. Why don't you just come in? We need you to do this. It's like, no, I want a day off.
And it's changed so much. I mean, Jared and I were discussing this a little bit at the top, but it's just the amount of change in the last 20, 30 years is just wild.
Yeah.
Whoever thought we'd be craving landlines and physical media again?
I think cassette tapes are going for collector prices nowadays. I think they're making a comeback.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
I saw cassette tapes listed for like $30 a piece.
Wow. I think my wife has some downstairs. I gotta dig those up.
Of all the physical media to bring back, it seems like because if it gets stuck in the player, you have a bad player and it eats the tape.
Oh yeah.
You just have a pile of nothing.
You get to relive the days of putting a pencil in there to respool it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good stuff.
The mixtape. Remember the mixtape?
I still have
the CD. I still have some too. Opening the CD plastic was still one of the top tier frustrating moments, though. All the stickers and everything. But,
we used to have this music store that was a chain, but I don't know how big of a chain because I didn't have the internet back then. But in our local mall when I was a kid, there were 2 of them in one mall. That didn't make any sense. But when you bought an album from them, they put a sticker on it that if anything happened to the album, they would replace it. If it was destroyed in any way, they put it on the case.
Wow.
So they went out of business because if you had the jewel case of a CD that had their sticker on it, you could put any CD in there and any cover and everything. So people were just like returning whatever, and people would destroy things in the worst, not the product failing or anything. Like they were doing stupid shit, breaking these things, and it's like, oh, I just return it. Get as many copies as you want, whether you bought it there or not. Don't think it was the best business model.
Especially back then, CDs used to be what, $15, $16 a pop?
Yeah.
Give or take. Yeah, those are the days, I guess. But I didn't realize we're already come up on 2 hours. That's how it always goes quick. So, yeah, thanks. I mean, I know this was a last minute thing, so thanks everyone for hanging out. Thomas, I know you scarfed down your dinner pretty quick. Yeah. And Varsha, I know you're avoiding work or trying to avoid work. And Jared, thanks for making time.
I got a tiny bit of work done while we were talking, so all good. I got my Friday evening chat with my friends, and I got some work done. I had the cake and ate it too.
Nice. It was weird. It would be weird to have another Friday without chatting with all of you. So it was like, we're all here, so might as well.
Yeah. We don't even have anything this weekend, so it would have been 2 whole weeks. So yeah, I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, me too. In the meantime, Jared, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel if you don't mind these get off your lawn moments. And get off my lawn, yeah. And you can find me...
and get off your lawn.
Nope, Jared's coming to your house and demanding that you get off
And, and these little dementia moments I'm having. But and you can find me on the Speculative Speculation podcast, which we didn't do this week. And we can other pagechewing.com podcasts like Friday Conversations sometimes, and plenty of other stuff. I'll be talking with our friend Jose on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
For my next Book Think episode. And
nice. And you'll tell us afterwards what book he picked. So, I mean, you can keep it a surprise for your audience.
Yes,
But
it's
I
be a
want
surprise
to
for now. But and Vasha, how about you?
Is this part where I do outros? Yes. You can find me on the YouTube channel, Reading by the Rainy Mountain, the podcast Speculative Speculations, which is currently releasing our recordings of Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And yeah, and I'm here on Steve's podcast all the time, and hanging out on the Page Chewing forum.
Nice. And Thomas.
You can find me on Page Chewing forums mostly, on Twitter still, on X, whatever, at Stone and Shield, and on Facebook, but I don't remember what that is, so don't worry about it. But mostly Page Chewing. Yeah, that's the spot to find me.
And anyone looking for your work is the fallofemrose.blog.com, I believe.
fallofemrose.blogspot.com.
Got it. Okay. I was close. Well, yeah, be sure and check it out, and check out Thomas's books, and you will enjoy them. And, cool. So until next time, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you all have a great weekend, and we will talk very soon.